there, thanks for joining me today. My name's Jo and I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator based in the UK. You're joining me for my Monday Mashup this week, and we are mashing up 3 stamp sets this week, in fact, and this is what we're going to create. So obviously we're using the Nature's Beauty stamp set. I'm sorry if the light's catching that slightly. We're also using the greeting from the Peaceful Boughs stamp set, and then the greenery and this white up here is actually this stamp taken from Positive Thoughts. So we have a nice mixture today. So I think it was last week when I did my Monday mashup, I decided that I would have liked to have used this deer because I was making a bauble, and it would have worked really well, but he was just a little bit too big, so I thought he needed to come out into another card. So this is what we're going to make today. It is quite simple. There's various stages to it, which I will talk you through as we go. Okay, so first of all, we are going to need a card base, and this is Pool Party, and this measures 21 centimetres by 14.85, and it's scored at 10.5 to give us our card base. And again, if you're in a different market that has imperial measurements, you would just adjust your layers accordingly. And then I have a piece of Mossy Meadow, and this measures 13.35 by 9. And then I have a piece of Whisper White, and this measures 12.85 by 8.5. So it just gives us that little border on that there. Okay, so we're going to be working on our Whisper White panel to start with, and I'm going to be using Pool Party ink and also one of our sponge brayers. So these are really good for doing really nice backgrounds. So we're using it just a little bit today, not a great deal, but I just wanted to show you how I do this. So I have my sponge roller. They come with various heads, and then you can use them for different colours. They wash up really, really well, so you can use them time and time again. They don't take long to dry, so they're quick bit of detergent and they're dry. Now, when you're inking up your roller, you want to make sure that you are rolling it all in one direction. Don't be tempted to do this, because what happens is you only ink about 2 inches of your roller, and then you'll start getting lines on it. So you just want to flick it off the edge, and that will make sure that you get a really nice covering on your roller. So I'm just going to, I'm doing it straight on my top, and then I shall wipe it afterwards. But I'm just going to roll this backwards and forwards with quite light pressure. I don't need a huge amount of pressure, just to lay down some colour. And I'm going about 3/4 of the way down. Okay, I'm just going to re-ink, and then this time I'm going to concentrate more sort of on the top half. I'm going down slightly, but I just want to make this top half a little bit darker. Okay, so that's done. So next I'm going to do my snow hills, and also this sort of twig-like thing we've got going on here. So I'm going to first of all take just a piece of scrap paper, and I'm literally just going to tear it. Now, if you try and tear the paper to give you an edge, you can guarantee it will never tear quite where you want it. So I recommend that you just literally just tear it up, and then you'll find that you get a much better sort of hill shape on it, really. Okay, so for this we are going to be using Smoky Slate and also Soft Suede. I'm going to move the card out of the way for a moment. So the Smoky Slate is what we're going to use to create our snow hills, and then the Soft Suede is what we're going to be using to create the twigs. So I'm going to place this on here, and I'm just using a little finger dauber and some Smoky Slate ink, and I'm very, very lightly just want to mark out my snow hill. So I'm just using little circular motions here, just to try and mark out those snow hills, but without making them too obvious. So when you're looking at it like this, you almost can't see it. And then as you move your paper, and you see they start to appear. And I'm going to move my paper this time and do it at a slightly different angle. Okay, and then finally I'm just going to do one sort of straight across here. It doesn't really matter where you place them, it's entirely up to you. It's just to give you that sort of, it looks like it's sort of folds of snow really. Okay, so once I've done that, I'm going to place this mask back on the original one, and I'm going to take this stamp, which is taken from the Nature's Beauty stamp set. So these are these sort of twigs here. Now I want to ink it up in soft suede ink, but I don't want to have these parts stamped. So I'm just going to ink it up entirely. And then I'm going to make sure that these parts at the end of the stamp are just going to go onto my paper. So you can see when I move that, the twigs are actually sort of in place. And I'm going to do this twice. So I've inked it, stamped it, and then this is second generation stamping, just to add that little bit of depth. I'm then going to go back to try and line up my second one. I'm going to do exactly the same again, but I want less this time. So I'm just having a little bit over here, and a little bit here. And then finally for the last one, I'm going to do exactly the same, but I'm just going to have tiny little bit showing. So it's just little bits of twigs that would show above the ground once the snow has fallen. So once I've done that, I'll pop that out of the way. So the next thing I want to do is to actually stamp my deer. So I'm just going to clean off this because I'm going to use this again later. I want it to dry. So this time I'm using Memento ink, and I'm using the lovely deer stamp. So this is here. I'm going to ink this up nicely, but I want to bring my mask back in. So I'm going to decide where he's going to stand, and I'm going to have him standing at the bottom here. So I'm just going to ink my stamp. Okay, and again, I want to lose these lines at the bottom of his feet. So I'm just going to pop him in the middle somewhere. Okay, so it looks like he's standing in the snow. At the moment, it looks like he's lost his hooves, but once it's all painted, you'll see it'll all start to come together, and it looks really nice. So that's that part. Now what I want to do is to colour him in. So I'm using Stampin Blends this time, and I've used ivory just for the inside of his ears, and I'm using soft suede in light and dark, and then I'm using a little bit of my colour lifter if I feel that I need to add some little highlights. So I'm just going to colour the inside of his ears to start with. Oops. And then I'm going to start with my dark pen and just colour around his ears to start with, and just round to the top of his head. Okay, so this stamp is particularly good in the sense that it's got all these hash lines. So wherever these hash lines are is where the darkness is going to be. So what I'm going to do is just use my dark Stampin' Blend, and I'm adding some colour just to where those hash marks are. You don't have to follow them all completely, but just lay it down mainly where those marks are. And if they go in a certain direction, try and go in that direction, because that would be the direction of his fur. I live very near forest, so we do get to see a lot of these around, and I'm lucky enough to back onto fields as well, so we often see them running around, much to the amusement of our dogs. Okay, so once I've added all those dark parts, this is a really lovely stamp to learn using Stampin Blends, because the hard work is actually really done for you on this stamp set. And at this stage I'm going all over his face and all over his chest, and then I'm just basically filling in all the gaps that I haven't coloured with the dark. And as you can see, I'm not being very precise about it. I'm literally just colouring all over his body, because this will make the dark blend so much better. Okay, and if you find there are any parts that haven't quite blended, you can just go back over those and just add a little bit more detail. Okay, so he is coloured. I am just going to take the colour lifter, so where his sort of neck and chest is here, I'm just going to add some highlights, just remove some of that colour, just to make him a bit lighter, and also on his face. It just adds those little highlights so you can sort of see his body sort of taking shape. Okay, so what I did then do is I actually took a black pen and just went back over his nose and also his eyes, just to blacken them a little bit, because obviously we've dulled them a bit with the brown. So it's just to sort of highlight them again, really, and maybe down the side of his nose. Okay, so that part is done. So now what we want to do is to add our greenery. So for this I'm using Mossy Meadow, and I'm using this lovely ferny sort of stamp from the Positive Thoughts stamp set. And again, I'm going to be using first and second generation ink. So I've inked it up, and I'm going to create, I might even go a third one there. So I want it to be sort of light and dark, really. I'm going to come in the other side and do it again. Oops. Add a little bit more ink here. So just add in a little bit of interest, really. I'm going to go in with another little dark one there. So as you can see, I've overlapped them all, so as if it was like a tree, they would all overlap and you'd see them all nicely together. Okay, so I'm just going to clean that up, because we're going to use that again shortly as well. So now that we've done that, I want to add some dark edges. So if I bring in the original card, you can see that I've darkened down these edges here, just to add a little bit of interest, really. So for that I used Smoky Slate again, and my finger dauber, and I am literally just going to go around and colour all those edges. So now that that's done, I want to now add my leaves here, and also my white pieces here. And I thought it might be quite nice to add some more of these over, partly over him. So I'm using this little twig one again with my Versamark ink pad and my white embossing powder. So I'm just going to ink this up here. And again, I'm doing first and second generation because this is quite good, the Whisper White embossing powder. It sort of will cover really nicely. And as you can see, I can't actually see sort of where I've been, but you'll see once you put the powder on, it all sort of starts coming together and you can see how it's going to look. And we can add some more if we need to at that point. This is my class pot of of white embossing powder, so I do have a few bits in it. I'm going to sort that out. Okay, so you can start to see where that is going to go bright white, and I think actually that is sufficient. So then I want to take the fern stamp again, so this lovely one we used with the green, and again I'm using Versamark, and I can do it twice because Versamark is it has glycerine in it, so it will hold that tackiness that holds our powder on. And again, just over those edges. So again, I'm just going to add powder to that top section. Just being careful not to touch the bottom. And again, you can see where my powder is going to be. Just give it a quick flick. That just removes any excess that shouldn't be there. And then I'm just going to heat that through. Okay, so once that's done, you can see whether you want to actually add any more. And I can see that have missed a little bit here. So I'm going to just go over the top of it again. Maybe a little bit more here and here. So once you're done, you don't have to, you know, that's not the end. If you want to add a little bit more, you can. So there you go. So that's our actual background piece done. So now what I'm going to do is mount this onto my mossy meadow. So I'm just using Tombow glue for this. And then glue it onto my card front. And then finally what I want to do is just to add my greeting. So that is taken from the Peaceful Boughs stamp set, as I said earlier. So it's just this greeting here. And I again have stamped that onto Mossy Meadow cardstock and embossed it in white, and then I've just fussy cut that out. So as you see, I did him a little bit higher in this one, so my greeting might go down a little bit lower, or in fact I could put my greeting up here for something different, which I might do. That would be something that will just show them apart. And I chose to keep everything flat about this card rather than use dimensionals, because I thought it'd be quite nice to be able to just pop it in the post quite easily. So there we go. So that's how I made this card. I hope you like that. As I say, it's something a little bit different today, but I did want to use this little dear because he's quite a good one to learn the Stampin Blends with, because obviously it's quite sort of straightforward colouring. So I just thought that would be nice to show you. So I hope you like that, and I will see you again next week for another Monday mashup. Take care. Bye.